Regents Chemistry, Classification of Matter, page 32 in the notes. So we're going to take a look at these pictures and figure out if they represent a single element, a particular type of compound, or some sort of mixture. The first thing I want to point out, like in example A here, these two circles are touching each other, so that means that they are bonded. Versus if you look in picture B, we have these little circles separated from all of the others, so that would represent a single atom. So I'm just going to write single atom. So when you're looking at these pictures, so this first example, this bigger circle is touching this smaller circle, so I have a molecule. Now when I look at the other three particles or molecules in the same picture, I see that they represent a large circle with a small circle. So in here I have one type of molecule, and because in letter A I have one type of molecule, I would definitely say that this represents a compound. Now when I go to picture B, I see that I have these like little darker circles, and I have several of those, but then I see, oh, I have another structure that's made up of two atoms, and this particle is not the same as the little single individuals, so I have a different type of particles present here. So I would say B represents some type of mixture. Now when I look at example C, right away I see that there are some particles made up of just a single larger circle, and then I see some other particles that are made up of two different size circles. So I can right away see, like in letter B, there are at least two different types of particles. So I'm going to put differ particles. So as soon as I see that there are different types of particles, I'm going to identify it as a mixture. Now if I come down here to box D, I can see I have these molecules and they're getting pretty large, but when I compare each molecule to the next, each one in the center has a large circle, each one has two smaller dark circles, and then each one has a single medium-sized circle. So I see it has one type of particles. So this must be either an element or a compound. So when I look within this structure, I can see that this little dark circle is definitely a different type of atom than the larger one. So when I have one type of particle, but each particle is made up of different types of atoms, I need to recognize that as a compound. Moving over to letter E, I can see that I have circles touching each other, so I have some molecules here. And when I compare the first molecule to each of the other molecules, they all seem to be the same type. So I have one type of particle present. But when I compare the type of atoms or circles touching each other, they all seem to be identical to each other. So since I have only one type of atom and they're consistently linked in the same way, this represents an element. Looking at letter F, I don't see any molecules, just a bunch of single atoms. And when I compare their types of how they look compared to each other, they're the same. So I have one type of atom. So I would classify this as some sort of element. Looking at letter G, okay, when I take a quick look over there, I see I have some pretty big structures here. But right away I notice that this structure or this molecule looks very different than this guy. So I have different types. And once when I recognize I have different types of structures all over, it's definitely some sort of mixture. Now this next box, box H, I can see I have a bunch of circles touching each other, and as I look at them, they all seem to be the exact same type. So I have one type of atom, and because it's one type of atom, I'm going to classify it as an element. And the last box here, box I can see that I have three pictures in this box, and they all look pretty much the same. So I have one type that's present, but the structure in itself is made up of at least two different sizes of circles. So I have one type of molecules, but those individual molecules are made up of different types of atoms. So I would say that this is a compound.